Hello again. I suspect sometimes that viewers might think that I scour the newspapers religiously along with all the other media each day to find bizarre items upon which to focus, thus giving a horribly distorted version of what the modern world is like. This would be a fair accusation or suspicion to hold. To dispel such ideas, I propose to look through just one copy of my newspaper this morning and see what we can find there. I have in front of me the Daily Telegraph for Thursday, February the 25th. In the description to this video, I provide a link to this newspaper, although those without an account may have difficulty in accessing every part of the site. Let's see what we have. The main item on the front page concerns the way that GCSE and A-level examinations will be handled this year. This tells us that teachers will be deciding how their pupils would have done had they taken examinations this year. This is an example of the real harm caused to people by the COVID panic, as opposed to the worked up hysteria that we've seen a lot of in the last year. What it means is that pupils who are hard-working and industrious will receive the same marks as the lazy and stupid ones. Imagine, if you will, that all football matches had been cancelled this year, and you thought that the fairest thing to do would be to allow the managers of various teams to say how they thought that their players would have done this season. If they had played, that is. How many managers do you think would say, "Oh, I think we would have had a poor showing this year with our players hardly scoring any goals at all"? Sound likely? No, of course not. The teachers will all lie their heads off and exaggerate like mad what their pupils may have done. They will do this particularly with the less gifted, shall we say, of their pupils. The result will be to deprive some able students of places at the best universities and instead ensure that some really idle kids get high scores. It's a terrible scandal that everybody working in the field of education knows only too well. What else have we got on the front page? Oddly enough, I was talking this morning about the BBC setting targets for how many homosexuals they employ. They've got a new target. I can hardly keep up with the news. It says BBC to set working class employee target. Well, I mean, it doesn't relate to homosexuals or black people. This is working class employees that they're after. At last, I'm a protected category. This is heartening. There's more to this than meets the eye, obviously, as is usually the case. So I will save this for later. They want 95% of staff to complete unconscious bias training this year also, which is loopy. I shall have to do a separate video about that racket as well, I think. Okay, that's page one. What about page two? Oh, yes. Doctor charged with hospital sexual assaults. Would anybody like to guess the continent from which his doctor's family originate? And would they further like to hazard a guess as to which part of this continent, north or south? Those who correctly guess they are dealing with somebody with South Asian heritage may award themselves 2 points. His name is Tayyab Shah. I have remarked on previous occasions how easy that particular game is to play, so maybe those who got away okay with that one shouldn't really have any marks at all. It was too easy. What's more? Here's a headline about the Windrush scandal and about compensation. Readers will recall that some people who came from the Caribbean in the 1950s were told they had no right to be in Britain because they didn't have the correct paperwork. Before I read this piece, I guessed there would be a lot of fraudulent claims. This is not, of course, because those applying for compensation are black. The same would happen with a scheme involving white people or those from the Indian subcontinent. This is simply a matter of human nature. If you offer to hand out free money, everybody will want some. It's a bit like the mis-selling of endowments or insurance. Why not make a claim? There's nothing to lose. It's like playing the lottery for free. Reading the piece actually confirms my horribly cynical view, because it says only 18% of those who have made claims have actually been given any money. I'm assuming that means that around 80% of the claims made were fraudulent. Looking at the figures, I see that 500 claims have already been turned down. In 91 of those cases, the claims were made for people who were actually dead. This is just what we would expect. What else have we got? Let's have a look here. Cormorants, yes. Oh, yes. This is a good one. Here's something which you could hardly make up. British police forces are worried because they're having difficulty employing enough Muslim women, and so they've been trying out new hijabs which can be worn with ordinary helmets. Here's a picture of a recruit wearing one. The uniform alone makes me wonder what on earth has happened to the police in this country in recent years. I mean, does this look the way that British police officers looked at one time? Have another look. I'm used to seeing male police officers with unshaven, tattoos, even bloody earrings, if you don't mind. So we all know that the police force in this country has changed for the worse. We learn here that half of new recruits in the last year are now women, which bodes ill when you want a couple of burly coppers to break up a roughhouse after chucking out time at the pub. But there we are. At least they'll be wearing comfy hijabs. This is all from today's paper, and I have not exhausted the folly and idiocy contained in it, not by a long chalk. As I say, tomorrow I shall be examining in detail something mentioned on today's front page, that is to say the BBC's new Diversity and Inclusion Charter. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I think I can promise viewers that it really is, how shall I put it, an interesting piece of work.